Okay, so my name is BobbyRush. I have been playing EVE Online on one character or another since 2008. I've been playing this character as my main character since 2010. I joined EVE University about 2 years ago, spent 18 months in the uni, and then left to join Snigwafer, which is a PvP-focused kind of teaching, learning corporation. The title of today's class is Black Ops Hot Ships. Black Ops ships are usable in a couple of different ways, but the way that we use them most is to do something called a hot drop, where you rapidly move all of your fleet from one solar system to another one that's fairly far away, kill a ship with overwhelming DPS, and then all jump out again. And as the class goes on, I'll explain to you how that works and which ships you'll need, things like that. The general overview for the class is going to be that I will give you a very brief introduction to cloaking, sinusoidal fields, and jump drives and jump portals, because you'll need to know about these things in order to really kind of comprehend what we talk about later. But this is not going to be an in-depth look at cloaking, sinos, or jump drives and jump bridges. After that, we will look at the actual Black Ops battleships, the ship that makes this whole sort of fleet work. We'll then talk a little bit about hunter ships. These are ships that go out and find targets and pin them down for us. We'll then talk about what sort of ships we use for damage dealing. After that, I will give you a bit of an overview on how to find targets, which will involve using some out-of-game tools like .lan. And then I'll give you a brief overview of how the fleet works. After that will be the open Q&A. Okay, so there are a number of cloaking devices in the game. There are Tech 1 versions, Tech 2 versions, the Tech 2 covert version, and then some faction versions. In general, the T1, T2, and the faction ones all operate pretty much the same way. However, the covert one is very, very different. All cloaking devices have some penalties that come with them. When you have the cloaking device fitted to your ship, for example, you have scan res penalties. So yeah, someone's linked the covert ops cloaking device there. For the Tech 1, the T2 improved, and the faction ones, you will speed penalties when it's activated. You won't be able to warp. You won't be able to activate any of your modules. Whether it's activated or not, you get a scan resolution penalty. So when you from using a cloak, you have what's called sensory calibration delay, and this is the delay the game imposes where you can't actually start locking new ships. So depending on the ship and the cloak that you use, this can be anything from 5 seconds to 30 seconds, where you basically are just, you can't do anything offensive to people. And this is a measure of balance, so that if you just decloak right next to someone, you can't immediately start locking them. Now, luckily for us, there are a couple of ships in the game which ignore this rule, and they are stealth bombers and Black Ops ships, but we will move on to that properly when we talk about those ships later on in the class. Now, the covert ops cloaking device is different from the rest of them. If you click on the link in the channel, you'll note on the Attributes tab, down at the bottom, it says Can be fitted to, and then there's a big long list of ships that you can put the covert ops cloak on. Regular cloaks you can put on any ship in the game, as long as it's got enough fitting space for it. And you've got the high slot for it to go into. Sadly, no freighters with cloaks. But the covert ops cloak is only usable on a very small number of ships. Now, these ships in this list is also the ships that can go through a Black Ops portal that we talk about later. So, Black Ops fleets use exclusively ships on this range. Now, some of them you don't see very much at all, like the Etana, or the Prospect, or the Stratios Emergency Responder, are just so outrageously rare or expensive that no one really flies them. But for the most part, you'll see a lot of stealth bombers, force recon ships, strategic cruisers, and the like on Black Ops ships. Black Ops fleets, sorry. The uni has recorded classes and wiki pages on cloaking devices and how they work, and I don't really want to talk much more about them, other than to say that the Black Ops battleship, you'll notice, is not on this list. Black Ops battleships cannot use covert ops cloaks. What this means, of course, is that the Black Ops battleship can't warp while cloaked, but it does have a nifty little hull bonus that allows it to move quite quickly while it's cloaked. And in fact, if you have a well-trained pilot, you actually move faster when you're cloaked when you're in a Black Ops ship. But yeah, just bear that in mind, that Black Ops battleships don't use covert cloaks, they use the regular ones. In general, if you're going to be spending close to $1 billion-isk on a Black Ops battleship hull, you're probably going to want to put a faction variant of the cloak on. Usually it's the Caldari Navy one. Sometimes it is the Storyline Guys module. So a sinusoidal field is a kind of beacon that's projected in space by a ship using a sinusoidal field generator. Again, there are two types of sinusoidal fields. There are the regular type and the covert type, and two corresponding generators. So you'll see there that the covert field generator has been linked into the channel, and there's just a regular sinusoidal field generator as well. Now, sinusoidal fields are what capital ships use as targets for their jump drive. So if you own a capital ship, you can't move it through stargates like you do regular ships. It has a special sort of propulsion on it called the jump drive, and you use your jump drive to move many, many light years away. You can cross, a very big distance in Eve using the jump drive. But they have to have something to target, and that is a sinusoidal field that is in fleet with them. The covert sinusoidal field can only be jumped to by a Black Ops ship or a Black Ops jump portal. So if you've got a Titan or a carrier or something like that, you can't jump to a covert sinusoidal field. The regular sinusoidal field, everything can jump to that. So even if you're in a Black Ops ship, you can jump to a regular Sino with that one. People tend not to use the regular Sino for doing Black Ops work for the reasons that we'll go into in just a minute, but it is possible. Now, you can't activate a sinusoidal field when you're in dead space. So that is any sort of faction warfare or similar type of site that's behind a gate, and the dead space extends around that gate as well. So you can't light a Sino even when you are kind of on grid with the gate, so you can't burn 100 off and then light the Sino there. You cannot light a sinusoidal field in wormhole space. You cannot light a sinusoidal field if your ship is travelling more than 500 meters a second, and this is quite an important one because a lot of people, they decloak, turn on their MWD, burn towards something and try and light their Sino, and then the Sino won't go up because they're moving too quickly. And the regular sinusoidal field cannot be lit in a system which has sinusoidal field jamming in place. Now, you will see sinusoidal field jamming in literally all of HiSec. You can't light Sinos in HiSec whatsoever. You will also see Sino jamming in incursion constellations. Whenever the incursion people come along, the Sanchez Nation jam all Sinos. And you will see sinusoidal fields jammed in Sovereign nullsec, where the entities that own the sovereignty have upgraded the system and put a Sino jammer in place. Now, the covert sinusoidal field generator ignores all of those Sino jamming things other than HiSec. You still can't light them in HiSec, but you can light a covert sinusoidal field that's in Sovnull and Sino jammed, and you can light it in, say, a low-sec incursion, that kind of thing. The sinusoidal field generator itself consumes fuel. It consumes liquid ozone fuel at a rate that is determined by your skills. The sinusoidal field generation skill, in fact, is the one that and also sometimes by the ship. Force Recon ships have got a roll bonus which halves the amount of fuel that they use and also halves the duration. A regular Sino field is a 10-minute duration, and a covert Sino field has a 1-minute duration. And this is one of the reasons why for Black Ops stuff we tend not to use regular Sinos. When the sinusoidal field is active on your ship, you gain a number of penalties. The most significant ones of this are that your movement speed is reduced to 0, or moreover your maximum movement speed is reduced to 0. If you were moving when you lit the field, you will still continue to coast a little way, but essentially all of your speed will be set to 0 and you'll just use your inertia to finish off. You also cannot dock. You cannot jump through a stargate or any other sort of thing like a portal. If you log off with the Sino up, your ship will stay in space, and when the Sino goes down, then you will not warp off. And also, when you light a sinusoidal field, you will create a beacon on the overview of everyone in system for a regular Sino, or everyone on grid with you for a covert Sino. We use covert sinusoidal fields on our hunting ships so that they can find a target, tackle the target, and then they light their covert Sino, and we open the bridge, and then everyone goes through the bridge, and then you appear. Well, I should say, when you jump to a Sino, any sort of Sino on any sort of ship, you always land 5 kilometers away from it in a random direction. Everyone arrives in a big kind of like 5k radius sphere around the sinusoidal field. Yuki asks, can you hold tackle while sinoing? Yeah, the field generator itself doesn't use any like cap or anything like that to be activated. So as long as you've got fuel in your bay, and your cargo bay that is, and as long as you've got the right skills and you're not moving quickly, then once you light the sino, nothing else on your ship is affected. Modules work, all of your guns, all of your defences, that kind of thing. So you can continue to defend yourself, and you can continue to tackle people, you can continue to, chug charges, that kind of thing. The one thing you wouldn't be able to do is something like cloak, because again the sino prevents it from happening. Yeah, as Harika there has said, yes, if the ship that's generating the Sinusoidal Field is destroyed, then the Sinusoidal Field will go down early. When people use regular sinos to move capitals around and they're not in combat situations, usually they use rookie ships, and they light the sino very close to a station so that as soon as the ship, as soon as your capital ship comes in, you can just immediately dock. And then if someone comes along and shoots their rookie ship in the 10 minutes that the sino's up, it's not really the end of the world for them. I have in nullsec seen people use highly tanked heavy interdictors to light sinos near POSes. They just put their bubble up and light the sino, then anything that tries to warp in and kill them has to deal with the bubble and the POS defences and stuff like that. The question about lighting one on a gate or a station. When you're on station, you can light the sino within the station's interaction sphere, and this is actually what people do a lot. But you do have away from the station that you are more than like 5k away from its model. The reason being that if you are very close to the station, you light a sino and a ship comes in, they'll bounce off the station. Now, for a small agile ship, that's not a problem, but for a big ship like a Capital, you can find yourself being bounced well outside of the jump range, the dock range, and that will be a bad thing for you because someone's likely to come and tackle you. As for the POS bubble, you can't light it from inside the POS shield. You do need to move out the shield, and again, ideally you need to be more than 5k away from the shield for that same reason. Very, very weird things happen if you light sonos very close to POS beacons, very close to POS shields. You get put in unusual places. So, jump drives and jump bridges. We've already touched on most of what I wanted to say here, just kind of in passing. But yeah, all capital ships have a jump drive. The Black Ops battleship and jump freighter, which some people call a capital ship, but it's not really, also have jump drives. So, jump freighters and Black Ops ships. As I said before, all ships can jump to regular Sinusoidal fields. Only the Black Ops ship can jump to a covert Sino field. Now, the jump drives on these ships use both fuel and capacitor. The fuel that they use is a racial type of isotope. I haven't written them down. I know that Amar uses helium isotopes because I use Amar ships, but they come in 4 different flavours. The amount of fuel and capacitor that they use again is based on your skills, but you basically need jump drive operation to 5 to train anything else. So the amount of cap that you use for a jump is always 75% of your cap. The fuel costs will change based on your jump fuel calibration skill. So certain ships can also fit what's called a jump portal generator, which is often called a bridge. Now, there's only really 2 classes of ships who can do this. The Titans can use a jump portal generator that can literally send any ship through. So you can put anything through a bridge created by a Titan. And then Black Ops ships are only capable of putting on a module called a covert jump portal generator. So the regular jump portal generator can only be used on Titans, and then the covert one can only be used on Black Ops. Yuki's asked, can capitals use bridges? If you mean can a capital jump through the bridge, I would imagine that the fuel costs are completely prohibitive. I don't know if there is an in-game mechanic that prevents it, but the real question there is why would you want to? Because capital ships have their own jump drives, so they can just jump to the target beacon themselves. I don't believe that there's any game mechanic that prevents it aside from the enormous mass of the ship, meaning that it would use an outrageous amount of fuel. So Black Ops battleships, like I said, they have a jump drive, so if you are bringing Black Ops battleships to actually deal damage on your Black Ops fleet, then they just jump immediately themselves to the Sino lit by the Hunter, and then all of your other ships will be going through a bridge. So yes, the jump drive itself uses fuel and capacitor. Now the Jump Bridge, the Covert Jump Portal Generator module, when you activate that, it actually doesn't use any fuel or any capacitor to activate the module. It does begin to use fuel as pilots in your fleet use the portal that's been generated. Now, the portal it generates is centered on the Black Ops ship, and it's a big kind of blue wavy effect in space. And what you do is you just click on the battleship, and then in the list of options there, one of them will say jump to, and then the name of the solar system that the bridge has been opened to. It operates basically just like a Stargate in that regard, but instead of it being you jumping from one Stargate to another, you are jumping from one battleship to a Sinusoidal Field. Once people start going through the bridge is when it starts to use fuel, and the amount of fuel that it uses is based on the mass of the ship going through. And this is why Harika has asked the question, do prop mods and armor plates affect fuel consumption? And the answer is yes, they absolutely do. When you activate a module, any sort of afterburner or micro-warp drive on your ship, it increases the mass of your ship. If you just have the module fitted but not turned on, then it doesn't increase the mass of your ship. So you must never ever ever have your afterburner or micro-warp drive turned on. You're like cycling red or green while you jump through the bridge. If you do, your mass is much, much larger, and the Black Ops pilot is likely to get quite angry at you, possibly call you bad names over comms. Same for armor plates. Armor plates add mass to your ship when they are fitted and when they are online. If you offline your armor plates, the mass addition will be removed. Offlining armor plates before you jump through a portal into a combat situation is a really bad idea. In general, if we are bridging ships that basically have to have in order to be safe, then you just have them turned on. But if you're bridging ships like stealth bombers that really shouldn't be fitting armor at all, then we kind of force them to use shield tanks. Kavenna asked, is Jump 2 still right next to Bridge 2? I think they actually separated them out. I think they put another thing in between. I'll have a look later when we do the practical. Yeah, it's a sadly very common thing in EVE Online that Titan pilots press the wrong button, and instead of bridging their entire fleet into a fight, they jump themselves on them into a fight and then die horribly. And you can do a Google on the Battle of Asakai to see what happens when people do that. So any other questions about cloaking, Sinusoidal Fields, or how jump drives and jump bridges work? Or I should say the jump portal generator uses the same sort of fuel as your jump drive. So if you fit a jump portal generator onto a Redeemer, which uses helium isotopes for its jump drive, then the portal generator consumes helium. If you fit the portal generator onto a Sin, which is a Galente Black Ops ship, then it will use whatever the Galente fuel is, which I don't know. The question, can you use your entire fuel supply in a one-way jump and then be stuck? Yes, you can. People are clever enough to figure out the fuel requirements and not do that, but yes, it can be done. And can you move fuel from standard cargo to the fuel cargo bay? Yes, you can. Most bridging setups for a battleship, for a Black Ops ship, include lots and lots of cargo expanders in the lows so that you can fit loads and loads of fuel into your cargo bay and then transfer it into your fuel bay as it gets used up. Now, when your fuel bay empties, the game should start taking it from your cargo as well, but I tend to try to just drag it into the fuel bay myself manually as it gets used up, just to be extra doubly sure. If the Black Ops ship that you are attempting to portal through runs out of fuel, then the Black Ops ship won't get a notification, but the ship trying to use the bridge will. So it will say, 600 fuel is required to make this jump, but the Black Ops ship only has 400. Question from U0, do most Black Ops fleets do shielding? The answer is most Black Ops ships don't do tanking really at all, because the plan is to destroy your target in about 10 seconds and then get out of there. As for the actual Black Ops ships themselves, they tank whatever they're best at. So, the Caldari one is a shield tanker and the Amar one is an armor tanker, as you might expect. As for the ships that are going through, it tends to be T3s, which again will just fit a tank that's appropriate to their subsystem layout and their race, or stealth bombers, which we almost exclusively use shield tanks for. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Black Ops battleships, specifically when we're using them for bridging. Again, I've kind of covered a lot of this already just on the stuff that we talked about. But there are 4 Black Ops battleships, one for each race. They are a Tech 2 battleship, so they are quite expensive to buy. They're in the kind of 700 million and above range. There is the Redeemer for Amar, the Sin for Galenti, the Panther for Minmatar, and the Widow for Calgary. Now, in Snigwaffer, most of us fly Redeemers. That's not really because the ship is necessarily any better than the rest. That's mostly because we fly Archons as our ships for moving our stuff around, because we're quite a nomadic corporation. We quite often go on deployments and move our entire corporation from one system to another. So moving all of our assets in a carrier is really the best way. A lot of folks use Amar ones for that. And because of that, it just means you don't have to worry about lots of different fuel types. Redeemer is also, a really good DPS ship anyway. So it follows the usual Amar standards of having lasers and heavy armor tank and that kind of thing. The Sin is a drone boat. It's like a big Dominix. Sins are quite useful in that their damage doesn't come from their high slots, so their high slots can be used for things like remote armor repairers and heavy newts and things like that, which can really turn the balance of your fleet if you've got remote reps that can come with you. It means you don't have to go and dock up if you take damage. You can keep people up, you can nuke loads and loads of stuff, make your targets easier to kill, that kind of thing. The Widow being the Scorpion model, that one is an ECM boat. Usually ECM is a bit of a questionable use on a Black Ops hot drop because again we're killing things quickly enough that we don't really need to jam it out. But the ECM can be life-saving if someone does get tackled, especially the Widow itself. If it gets tackled, then being an ECM boat is really, really hard. And then the Panther, like the Redeemer, it's it's a really good solid ship that's you can do anything with. It doesn't have any like major pros or cons about it. It does have the best alpha damage in the fleet if you fit it with artillery, but you'll often see autocannon setups as well because of the range that we spoke about earlier, because you jump in at 5k away from the Sino, which means that usually you're arriving very close to your target. So Yuki asks, which can have the biggest cargo hold? That is the Redeemer, I believe, with cargo hold expanders in the lows. It's got like 7 lows, I think. I should know this since I actually own one. And with cargo rigs, you can get like a very hold on it. People don't tend to rig them unless they're rich enough to have more than one Black Ops ship, because more often than not, you'll be switching your fit between a bridging fit and a DPS fit. I touched on this earlier, but if you pick any of the Black Ops ships that are in the panel there, I'm going to go for the then you will notice that it has roll bonuses that can fit the covert generator and the covert Sino generator. There's no targeting delay after cloaking device deactivation, which is quite a nice one, and cloak reactivation delay reduced to 5 seconds. So this means that you can immediately, like the moment that you decloak, you can immediately start locking things. This isn't much of use when you start doing Black Ops fleets because you can't actually jump or use the bridge while cloaked, so you're going to be arriving decloaked anyway. But it does make for some hilarious action when you are, say, camping a station or a gate, and you can just immediately decloak and start blapping things straight away. But we don't tend to do that. I've seen people do that near the NSC before, but not around here. And then the Black Ops bonus, it says a 125% bonus to ship maximum velocity when using cloaking devices. And this is what I touched on earlier. With the regular Tech 1, Tech 2, or faction cloak, there is a speed penalty for being activated. It can be, some of the faction ones are lower than that, they're around about 45% mark. If you train Black Ops to level 3, ideally 4 or 5, then you actually start moving faster when you're cloaked than you do decloaked when you're in a Black Ops battleship, which is very, very weird. Yuki's asked, is Black Ops 5 worth it? Not for the speed bonus, but for the damage increase, yeah, absolutely. Black Ops 5 is worth it. But like any Tech 2 skill to 5. It's one of those things where not everyone wants it and not everyone needs it on all of their characters. But if you do a lot of Black Ops work like we do, then yeah, it's definitely worth it. But it's not the kind of thing that you need to start training now as a younger pilot. Ari's asked, does your Black Ops fleet usually include blockade runners or anything to carry and ammo? Use much because when we do Black Ops fleets, we are generally trying to harass a particular Corp alliance. We don't do much Black Ops work when we're just shooting random targets. We do that sometimes when we're bored, but generally we do stuff like recently we deployed to Providence with the goal of stopping all PvE activity in Providence. Obviously it was quite a goal and we were unlikely to achieve it 100% of the time, but for a lot of the time when we were doing Black Ops work, we could sit in a selection of different solar systems in the middle of Providence, and then we're in range there to jump to the entire region, and the moment any one of our hunters finds someone doing PvE activities like mining or running sites, we can just immediately jump everyone in, kill them, and then jump back out again. Now, because we were on like a specific area, and we knew the fuel requirements quite a lot, and we knew what the ranges we could get to and get back from and what midpoints we needed. So what we tend to do is we have containers anchored in space full of fuel that only certain people have got access to, and then we can refuel from those actually in flight. Because every warm body that we have in a blockade runner is someone who is not in a damaged ship, and that is bad. We want as much damage as possible. However, for other types of fleet, I certainly know when Bombers Bar were still running stuff frequently, they would often have blockade runners come around with them. And again, if you are just kind of roving and going out somewhere and you don't have specific target areas in mind, it can be very useful to have a blockade runner come along full of bombs. Not bombs, sorry, fuel. I mean, if you're going to do bombing as well, then yeah, it can also come bombs, but generally we don't use bombs for Black Ops stuff. A question from Nath. I haven't picked one to train yet, and they're all an equal amount of time away. Which one would be a good one to aim for? Really, dealer's choice for that. It's entirely up to you. Pick the one that you think looks the nicest. Like I said, I trained for a Redeemer simply because of it being the same fuel type as the Archons, and it means that I don't have to juggle having loads of different types of fuel, and also because the Redeemer is, a fairly versatile boat in terms of damage and tank and that kind of thing. It's not like the Sin or the Widow, which have kind of distinguishing qualities. Just pick whichever one you want to fly and go for it. Look at what other Battleship 5 things you want to train. You can lead Battleship 5 to get in one of these, and that's a long, long train. So if you have no intention of ever flying any other MR battleships, then don't train for the Redeemer. So when you're fitting one of these ships, be a bridging setup to be using the covert jump portal generator, as I said, you want to be fitting all of your lows that you have available for extra fuel, so cargo hold expanders. There's really kind of very little point in fitting a bridging ship for defense, because generally you're not going to be actually jumping into the fight yourself as the bridging ship. What we tend to do is we will jump in at least a couple of stealth bombers that have got a covert Sino on them in addition to the ship that's doing the hunting, and that way if the hunting ship gets killed, we've still got someone in the target system that can light a second covert Sino off in a safe spot to bring the bridging ship in. So generally the bridging ship is safe enough that you don't need to bother putting a tank on it. In your mid slots, you want a large micro jump drive, because this helps you to kind of get out of dodge if you need to, and you want to be fitting cap boosters or cap rechargers. I prefer cap boosters because they've got the ability to very, very rapidly get your capacitor back up, but I know some people use cap rechargers. And again, the bridging ship, if you've got any mids left, you can put a token offensive module in there, like a point, but we like I said, we tend not to put bridges into combat scenarios too often. Sometimes we will, if it's just one mining ship and we're sure that there's no one else in system, we might jump the bridging ship in straight away. But usually we kill what we're going to kill, then we go to a safe spot, then we bring the bridger in just for extra safety. In terms of your heist slots, you're going to obviously need the cloak. Like I said, a faction cloak is what to recommend. You can get away with a T2 cloak if you're feeling really, really poor, but you've just spent nearly $1 billion on the ship. You might as well pimp out the faction cloak as well. You're going to need the covert jump portal generator. For safety, it's always a good idea to fit both a covert sino and a regular sino on your Black Ops ship, and that way, if something does go completely hairy and you've got people with capitals that can come in and try and help you, quite often we do have people that conceivably get into an Archon and jump in and come and try and save us if we needed to. And then your own preference on heavy newt and remote repairers. I like to have a couple of newts for safety, if you're tackled by something you can hopefully newt it off, and one remote repairer in case anyone takes damage in the fleet, you can always rep them up. We don't tend to use the newts and the remote reps too often because we don't tend to take a lot of damage. Now, as I said way back at the beginning, when the Black Ops ship jumps itself, it uses 75% of your capacitor. Usually you'll be jumping with a full cap, so that means that you arrive in system with 25% of your cap remaining. The portal, I didn't mention earlier, I should have put this in the notes, the portal itself is open for 30 seconds. So generally what happens is you open your portal, your entire fleet jumps through. As soon as the portal goes down, you either jump in yourself, if it's safe to do so, or you wait a little while and a second sino is lit for you to jump into. As soon as you jump into system, everyone in your fleet basically wants to be jumping back out again. So where you came from, for us it's usually a staging system or a staging station, you need to have someone there with a covert sino as well so that you can go back home again. So you light your home sino, called your return sino, and then you immediately open the bridge again, and then everyone can jump through the bridge to go back home. When that bridge ends, you want to be jumping through yourself. And if you've not reached at least 75% cap yet, basically you can't jump, you're stuck. And that's why the cap boosters and the cap recharges are there. I know some people that use recharges. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to wait, because waiting 2 heavy boosters with 800s in them running for 1 and a bit cycles each is enough to get you back on cap within about 10 seconds. So that's my preference on those. Any other questions about Black Ops ship fitting for bridging? I'm not really going to discuss too much fitting a Black Ops ship for DPS, because it mostly runs the same way as you would fit a regular battleship for DPS, only you're going to make sure that you've also got a cloak on it, and you're also going to make sure that you put quite a lot of blingy faction stuff in the mids and lows, because, again, if you're going to spend nearly $1 billion on the ship, you really want to be putting faction defenses and faction damage mods and things like that on it. And hopefully you don't have any intention to be spending 1 or 2 billion-isk on a ship and then asking me how to fit it. Al Badaz has asked, I've got a bridge sorted. Yeah, I will be providing the in-sino and the bridge myself with my ults. Crackers McGee asked in Mumble, would running with 2 blobs for bridging work better than just one considering cap issues? We do from time to time have people that put a backup bridging module on their damage ship, so that if anything goes wrong, then we've got a second bridge home. And if we are working from lots of midpoints, because one of the other things we do quite a lot is extend our operating range by having some pilots just put an ult in a system that's kind of like where we are and where we might want to go. And if we need to go further than our range where we are, we can just jump to the midpoint system. So if we're operating with like midpoints, then yes, it is beneficial to have multiple people with bridging ships, because then you kind of just get everyone through quicker. But cap is not really a big issue. You've got enough cargo hold to carry loads and loads of cap boosters, and as I said, you can get back up to jump cap very, very quickly as long as you're using a booster. Vicky's asked, how much damage does a Black Ops do compared to a stealth bomber? Well, it does depend a little bit on what your target is, because of the mechanics on how things like torpedoes and lasers and artillery and stuff like that work. However, the Redeemer that I use for actual doing damage to things does paper DPS of, let's see, need to load up EFT and have a look. Paper DPS of 1,100. That's with some drones as well, slavers with conclag. You jump in on a target, usually it's scrammed and webbed, so it's not going anywhere and you're not going anywhere. Yeah, chances are you're going to be doing close to your top damage there. A fully DPS fitted stealth bomber might be able to do about half of that damage, and if you are doing something like shooting an Ishtar, which we do quite a lot, then Ishtars have fairly small signatures, so the torpedoes aren't doing max damage against it. So yeah, Black Ops Battleship is capable of doing a fair bit more damage than a stealth bomber, but it's nowhere near like the ratio in their costs. You know, you can fit a stealth bomber for 20 million, you're going to be fitting a Black Ops ship for, you know, like I said, more than $1 billion at least, possibly up to $2 billion, depending on how blingy you want to go with the mods. So they are, you know, they do offer more of a risk, but for pilots that have taken a long time to train into them, you know, it's fun for them to do that. Obviously, we play this game for fun as well as just for the stats. So that should hopefully be everything we've got to say about Black Ops ships and fitting them for bridging. Now we're going to talk about hunter ships. Now, the hunters, as the name suggests, are people in a fleet who are not with the main fleet. They are going through systems looking for targets for us. So, hunting ships have to be covert ops capable ships because they have to be able to fit the covert sinusoidal field generator. As I said earlier, you could conceivably hunt in like a bait, heavily tanked battle cruiser, and then light a regular sino, and I've actually been in a fleet where we did that. It was actually a E-UNI fleet, but out of the LSC, back when it was in Dadrida, and we had some people just roaming around the low-sec areas, you know, acting foolish in heavily tanked battle cruisers, and then we just light a regular sino and we Black Ops switch to that. But because the regular sino stays up for 10 minutes, you basically have to sit there and you know, guard your bait ship for 10 minutes when you're done. So they're not really optimal for that. They're not optimal for stealthy, get in, kill something, get out again type work. So our hunting ships are exclusively stealth bombers, force recon ships, and Tech 3 ships with the appropriate subsystem. Now, a Tech 3 ship needs to have the covert subsystem in order to be able to fit a covert sino. Most of our hunting we do with alts who are in stealth bombers. It takes only about 2 or 3 months to train a brand new fresh alt to be able to use a sinusoidal field generator, because it does require Sino 5 for the covert sinusoidal field generator, and to be able to get into a stealth bomber. And they just roam around in space in our target area looking for people who are mining or running the combat sites, combat anomalies and things like that. As mentioned earlier, you can't actually get people who are running the majority of missions, because missions tend to happen behind gates and you can't Sino in behind a gate, or in fact anywhere near the gate. We did have one last question about Black Ops ships, which is, would you ever use the higher slots for anything else, and then having a mobile depot for refitting? You could conceivably, but like most of these tricks that involve having a mobile depot for refitting, if it goes horribly wrong and you get your Black Ops battleship tackled, you're probably not going to have enough, kind of like, you know, APM, I want to say, enough actions per minute to convincingly refit your ship to something useful, while also trying to nuke them off, while also screaming on comms for help, while also resigning yourself to the fact that you've been an idiot and you're about to lose a very expensive ship. So yes, it's possible, but no, I've never seen anyone bother to do it. So the other thing you're going to need on your hunting ship is obviously a warp disruptor, a warp scrambler, and or a stasis web. Now, for most stealth bombers, once you've got a propulsion module and a medium shield extender on there, which I recommend both of those, you absolutely need prop mods to survive in nullsec, and you're going to need your medium shield extender to keep enough HP to survive kind of like drone damage and other such things to get your fleet in. Because if your hunting ship dies before the fleet comes in, then basically, you know, you just lost your ship for nothing. But the good benefit of the stealth bomber is that it's, you know, fairly cheap. If it does get destroyed, it's not the end of the world. And also it's really good at duking through gate camps. If you are in nullsec where there's people using bubbles to get through camps, then, you know, it's got the agility and the speed to be able to navigate through those fairly easily. The fit is a covert ops cloak and a covert ops sino in the highs, and then a propulsion module. It really needs to be micro warp drive. I'm very against afterburners, but I guess if you were in low sec, you might be able to get away with an AB. And then you also want to have some sort of tackle. If you're lucky enough to be flying a 4-slot stealth bomber, 4 mid-slot stealth bomber, then it's your choice to go for either a scram and a point, which is my preference. Then if you find 2 targets, you can tackle them both. Or if you find something like a battleship that might have a micro jump drive, then using the scram on it is nice. As for the lows, it doesn't really matter. Agility is nice. If you wanted to fit torpedoes to the ship, usually if you're using a very young alt for this, they're not going to have very good fitting skills, and once you've fitted all of those modules, you don't have much fitting room left for things like torpedo launchers. But if you wanted to fit torpedo launchers, then you can, by all means, do that and fit some damage, but I tend to go with the damage control and then just agility stuff in the lows for a hunting stealth bomber. You can also hunt in a Force Recon ship, which Val has put there, the Falcon, Rapier, Pilgrim and Arazu. Now, generally the Rapier and Arazu are preferred for this because they have long-range scrams and long-range webs, respectively. No, the other way around, sorry. But you can use Pilgrims and Falcons. I recently, in Stingwaffer actually, when we were doing a gate camp, we were assaulted by some people that Black Ops wedged onto us, and they lit their Sino with a Pilgrim. And it was what we call a hospital Pilgrim, a Pilgrim that was fitted with all remote reppers and the highs and things like that. Yeah, the Arazu really is very, very nice for this. The Force Recon ships do have some disadvantages though. Obviously they're much slower to align and to warp around and move than frigates are. They are considerably more expensive if they get lost. And the real kicker for me and why I don't use them personally is that they have a cloak reactivation delay. Now, if you've got Recon 5, Recon ships, the skill that is trained up to 5, then there's only a 5-second reactivation delay. They've sensor recalibration is what I'm talking about here, I should say. So after they decloak, they cannot lock their target for 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds, depending on your skill in the Recon ship's skill. So this can give people time to escape. The stealth bomber, the moment that it decloaks, it can immediately start locking something up. So when I hunt, I tend to use stealth bombers for this. But recons are used a lot by people because, like I said, especially the Arazu, they've got the much longer range scrammer web, so you don't need to get quite as close to something. The fit for them is pretty much the same. They tend to more often be armor tanked, so that you can fit more tackle mods into the mids. If you're flying a Falcon, for example, you can shield tank that one because it's got enough mids to be able for you to be able to fit mods and also a shield tank in there, but it's really kind of up to you. And again, the highs this time are going to be a cloak and a Sino field, covert Sino field. Usually you've got enough highs that you can fit a regular Sino as well, again, which is just useful in case you find something. If you find a carrier ratting and people want to come shoot it with dreads instead, then you can do that. And also, you've got enough fitting space to be able to put a probe launcher, an expanded probe launcher on there. And this allows you to actually scan down people that are running combat signatures rather than combat anomalies. Usually a stealth bomber simply doesn't have enough fitting space to be able to put everything on there that's useful and also fit an expanded probe launcher. And finally, you can hunt in Tech 3s, like as we said. The fits for those are pretty much the same as the fits for the Force Recons. They just have way bigger tanks, and they do also have the option of fitting the interdiction nullification subsystem, which is really, really handy for when you're working Nile. On our last deployment, when we were in Providence, we did have a member who was using an alt in a Proteus, and he was using the long-range scram subsystem in addition to all of the other ones I mentioned. And this basically was our top hunter, managed to get something like 75% or more of all of our targets using his Proteus. The only hunter we had that was using a Tech 3. Again, any of the Tech 3s are viable for this. It doesn't really matter which one, just go with whichever one you've got a character that's trained for. Any questions about hunter ships and fitting them? I will talk a little bit later about the actual tactics of using a hunter ship when we do finding targets. So Yuki's asked, what about Covops rigs? Conceivably they can be used, but the Covops rigs themselves tend not to have enough fitting space to be able to fit the Sino, like the view and grid. So once you've got that on there, and also once you've got a, like a prop mod and a DC2 and other such things, you just tend to find that they're really, really tough to fit for things. They don't really offer any benefit over a stealth bomber. I suppose the only real benefit they have is they have bonus scanning. In a pinch, you could even fit, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but you could fit a blockade runner now. All blockade runners have got 2 highs, so they've got enough for a covert sino and for a cloak. And they've got enough mids to be able to fit the point and the prop mod. I really wouldn't use a blockade runner. It would be an awful, awful idea, but it's conceivable, it's possible. Okay, looks like we're moving on. So, DPS ships. Most often for going through the bridge, we are taking stealth bombers only. As mentioned before, you can put force recons and tech 3s and things like that through a jump bridge. However, the fuel requirements for doing that are much, much higher. And in terms of the kind of damage to fuel ratios, you're much better to send 2 or 3 or 4 stealth bombers through for the same fuel cost as 1 recon. Now, recons are very useful. Tech 3s and recons, I should say, are very, very useful on the field if there are multiple targets, because they've got the long-range scrams and webs and things like that. So it's not out of the question that we might once or twice send them through, but for the most part, we use stealth bombers for the damage. And of course, Black Ops battleships that are fit for DPS as well. So any of the stealth bombers are viable. When we go on deployment to do something like what we did in Providence, we do tend to have preferences on the stealth bombers though, because of the damage that they have, the damage flavors, the thermal and EM and things like that. In Providence, it's mostly Sanshas, so people are tanking against the Sansha rats when they're doing things, and that means that they generally have big open holes in their resist profiles. So we will then try and bring as many of the stealth bombers that fit that damage as we can, but it's not really a big thing. If you can only fly 1 bomber, then hey, that's the one you bring. But if you're able to fly, multiple different bombers, then it's best to try and maximize your damage on these fleets. So the fit for a damage one, I did actually put on the class announcement for this one, but again, it's a micro warp drive, it's a medium shield extender, because you do want to have enough tank to survive actually being shot at. The people that you bridge in on tend not to sit there and do nothing. I will give you a kill report later where the entire fleet just does sit there and do nothing. You're going to want your stealth bombers as well, and usually just 1 of those. It's kind of, again, dealer's choice which one you take, and this is because quite often we will be bridging onto 2 or 3 battleships that have got micro jump, and we want to be putting as many points and scrams on them as possible to stop them MJDing out. Also, the hunter ship might die, and you're going to be required to hold scram on something. And then everything else goes to maximum damage, so you want 3 torp launchers of the best that you can. It's either Meta 4 or Tech 2. The Tech 2 launchers aren't really all that necessary. It's nice to be able to use rage ammo if you can against big targets, but it's not really the end of the world. And then ballistic controls in the lows. As mentioned, much only ever take shields tanked bombers do. Now, I know a lot of people in Snake Waffer that are kind of EP measurers on who did the most damage, so they will not fit a tank and they'll fit extra damage from this and they'll fit extra that. I don't recommend it. Quite often on these sorts of fleets, if you're in a stealth bomber, you really are only going to get 1 shot off, and the amount of damage that you do in that case often depends on whether the ship is in shield armor or structure at the time. You can be in the most horribly fit bomber ever, and if you get a structure shot on a ship that's not got damage control, then basically it's just going to take huge amounts of damage from you. But in general, we do still want to be fitting them for as much DPS as you can get away with without being silly. Now, the waffle that I spoke about earlier, who was using an alt in a Proteus, his Proteus was a fairly common setup in terms of a cloaky DPS Proteus. The Proteus is wonderful in that it's actually still capable of doing fairly good blaster DPS with, I think, 4, maybe even 5, if you fit it correctly, while also fitting the interdiction nullifier, the long point, and the covert ops subsystems. So he did, from time to time, with his hunting ship, manage to do 75% or more of the actual damage on target as well, because the moment he decloaked and lights the Sino, he starts shooting it with his blasters as well. It takes us 5 to 15 seconds to get everyone in and start shooting. By that point, the guy's stripped it of all shields and half its armor on his own. Don't discount the damage that your hunting ship can do as well, but in general, you want to be fitting your hunting ship to just tackle things and survive. Now, as for the Black Ops ships, as I said before, I'm not really going to be able to give you advice on how to fit every single one of them. I could tell you the fit that I use on my Redeemer when I take it out and shoot things. I will just get a screenshot of EFT for you. In no way say that this is or the way that you should fit it or anything like that, but that's an idea. But you definitely want to be using faction defenses and faction damage mods on it. The rest of it is kind of up to you. Drones is an interesting one. I don't actually use 5-guard 2s. I tend to use 3 or 4 of them and then also have a couple of flights of EC drones. But I really can't advise you on how to fit any of the other ships. If you're getting to the point in the game where you're buying a Black Ops ship, presumably you know what guns to put on what ship, what tank it uses, how to maximize the tank, that kind of thing. So my broad advice to you is that just fit for loads and loads of damage. Be quite defensive with your ship. So once the Black Ops jump in, quite often what they'll do is, depending on what sort of ship it is we're shooting at, you may or may not deploy your drones. The sentries do nice damage, but if you begin to move straight away, which is a sensible thing to do really, then obviously you're going to risk losing your sentries because you move out of scooping range. You jump in, start shooting the target. What I prefer to do then is to align out and get ready to use my micro jump drive, and the moment that the target is dead, activate your micro jump drive, get 100 kilometers away and cloak the hell up. If you want to be super worried about your tracking, something which hopefully some of you heard about in the previous class, then yeah, don't move while you're still shooting the target. But I prefer to be a little bit more defensive than that, and I'll try to burn directly away from the targets while shooting at it. I guess there is the Hornet EC drones that I was talking about. If you're dropping on multiple ships, then it's kind of up to you to use your situational awareness to figure out it's a good thing. You want to be running D-scan quite a lot to make sure there's no interceptors coming in, that kind of thing. Because even with a kind of 8-second or so spool up time on the micro jump drive, it can be enough for you to get tackled. A question there about drones that I'm really not going to get into. As I said, that fit is just what I'm using at the moment. If you want to use heavy drones, by all means do. I mean, a lot of the Waffle guys were using geckos while they were outrageously OP before the patch changes made them change. Okay, I'm going to move on to finding targets then. So this is going to be much more kind of how we do things outside of the game. Hopefully, everyone in this channel has at least heard of, even if they don't necessarily use it all the time, the .lan maps. .lan is a wonderful tool that almost everyone that's any good at EVE uses to extract information from the game's API and present it in a way that they understand. For this example, I want you all to go to the .lan link that I just linked into Fleet, and this will bring you to the main .lan kind of landing page with the region maps and things like that. Somewhere near the top, you will see navigation in a little kind of 2x4 grid. If you click on navigation, that will bring you to .lan's navigation tools. Underneath the title, there'll be a little banner with a jump planner, a route planner, range, moons, planets, bridges, sinos, yah. If you click on the range link and then type into the system dialog box there, heck, and then press go, you will get, looks like it's on Thanatos by default. In fact, let me change that. Ship to Redeemer, jump drive calibration to 5. Okay. It will generate this link for you. It will give you the range that you can jump to from HEC when you're in a Redeemer that's got jump drive calibration 5. And you'll see there is a picture of Eve, New Eden I should say, at the top, and then underneath that there is a very long list of all of the solar systems that are within your jump range. Wherever our midpoint is, so say we were just plug in the stats of your bridging ship, which for us is always jump drive calibration 5. We don't do any sort of work that works on JDC4. All of our capital and, well, any ship that's got a jump drive on it, we do JDC5 for. You just have to sit through a month's worth of training to get it up. So your hunters then use this long list to go and look for things to kill. Luckily, on this very long list, you will see the last two columns are kills and jumps. And this shows you the number killed and the number of jumps in that system in recent time. Now, looking at the number of kills and jumps, that's probably in the last few hours. But what you can do is drill down and get much more kind of pertinent information. Now, right underneath the big map, you will see there is a little section called Jump Range Maps, and then some names of region. If you click on one of these, so in our example, I'm going to use Metropolis, and I'm not sure this link will fit into the channel. Oh, it does. That will then give you a map of the Metropolis region with a little white circle around every single solar system in Metropolis that's in range of HEC to be jumped to. Now you'll notice that it's only the low-sec systems. Obviously when we do this, because we live in low-sec and null-sec, it's pretty much everything because there's no green on our maps. But for Metropolis, because we're starting at HEC, we'll look at that. So you'll see all of the bottom left portion of faction warfare space and then two little places, Enden and Erstedt, are also in range of HEC. Now on this map, up at the top right-hand corner, there will be one there next to the name of the region. So there'll be one there that should be defaulting to something like either jumps or NPC kills or that kind of thing. If you go to that drop, just up there in that little drop down in the middle, if you hover over, well in fact you have to select NPC kills, you will see how many people are in space shooting at rats. Now, because this is a kind of mixed high-sec, low-sec region, it's not really showing very much. Although Egmar, if you have a look, has actually got quite a lot of NPC kills. Chances are there's someone running low-sec missions in Egmar, or maybe doing combat sites, or that kind of thing. And that's the information that our hunters use. So they will then head up to that system and then start looking on their directional scanners and their system scanners for combat sites and trying to match up where people are and tackle them. Now this is a very fine art that takes a lot of practice, and we don't really have enough time today to talk about how to use your D-scan to find people in space. There are plenty of uni classes about that, some of which might even be ones that I recorded many months ago. Choose a different region. Let's choose a null-sec region like Providence, where there was a lot of ratting goes on in Providence. No, even that's wrong. Never mind. But if you just look at the Providence map there, it doesn't have the right ranges on it, but whatever. That is not the one I was looking for. That is actually the range that we could hit from our staging station, which was not even in that region. And what we would do is we would pick a quiet system, so one with no jumps and no kills, and then we'd go and sino into that system, and then use that system as our midpoint for the whole region. But essentially, we could insert into any of the systems. So if you look at the Providence map there, you'll see that the colouring on them for NPC kills and NPC kills delta, which is another good one, which shows you like the increase or decrease in the number of people killing things. So positive NPC delta means that there's people shooting stuff there, and negative NPC delta means that there was people shooting stuff there, but they've now moved on. So between looking at those kinds of stats, and also just looking at ship and pod kills, where camps and fights are going on, you can mostly see which systems in your catchment area are good places to go and hunt. And yeah, obviously you need to be keeping a close eye on where the fleet is. So if, for example, we wouldn't have done this because it's a horrible system, but if we had moved to a 9UI 4TAC-H, which is kind of a little star system right in the middle of Providence, that's a very kind of commonly camped system because it connects to 5 other regions and you have to pass through it to go through to either Detail or Kari, the 2 high-sec systems that connect directly to Provi. So if we had chosen to go there, then obviously the hunters need to redo their map based on where the fleet is, because what you don't want to be doing is decloaking, tackling something, lighting a sino that makes you a sitting duck for a minute, and then finding out that the fleet is not in range of you. Now, Dotlan is capable of doing loads and loads more than what I've just given you, but that's really the basics. You can, for example, actually use Dotlan to work out the exact fuel requirements of putting your fleet through, as long as you know the skills of the bridging pilot and the masses of the ships. So it knows the mass of a Manticore and a Purifier and something like that. It knows the mass of a Razu, that kind of thing. We tend not to actually bother using it for that because it's fiddly and annoying, but you can do it. Right there on the range planner. Oh, no, actually, it's on the jump planner. There we go. So on that page on the jump planner, right down at the bottom left, you see bridge ships, and you can just type in ships there like Manticore and then add them, and then it will tell you on the next page, once you've figured out what jump you're going to do, what the actual fuel cost to bridge a Manticore is. But like I said, we never do that because it's way too much work and effort. But if you did want to try and figure out beforehand, a few hours before a fleet, what your maximum number of ships you can do a particular jump in and still have enough fuel to come back home with, then you can do that. Okay, so no one has asked any questions about Dotlan, which I can hope means that you all are Dotlan experts and I'm preaching to the converted here rather than I've lost you completely. So we're going to move on to the final part of the kind of talking discussion today, which is going to be how to actually operate the fleet. Now, most of this we've covered already in kind of fits and spurts of how the fleet runs. But I'm just going to try and give you a full overview now of how it works. So in order to Black Ops fleet, you will need at least one Black Ops ship fit for bridging. Obviously, this is kind of like the pinnacle of the cornerstone of the fleet. You can't really do anything useful without that. You will need as many hunting alts as you can really kind of get away with without people going crazy about it. In Snigwaffer, we have a kind of a rule, essentially, that once you join, absolutely everyone must begin training a Sino 5 stealth bomber alt. You've got some time to do this, it takes 2 or 3 months to do it, so you're going to have like maybe a 6 or 7, 8 kind of month grace period. But if you're still with us, if you've been in Snigwaffer for as long as I've been in Snigwaffer, which is about 7 months now, then you're basically expected to have trained a Sino 5 hunting alt because we do it so much. It's generally not a good idea to go hunting on your main or anything like that because more often than not, especially if you go hunting in Sovereign Null like we do a lot, you're on every intel network as a waffle. You show in local as reds, like areas of space, which is nice for you. It means you can shoot people in low without them having to aggress you first. But they might see that you're EVE University and go, oh look, it's only E-UNI, don't worry. Chances are, if you're out there with any sort of character that's in a player-run corporate alliance, you're going to get people a little bit shifty. Alts and NPC corps tend to be a little bit less worried about. On PvE in Sovereign Nullsec are incredibly lazy when it comes to actually checking local for reds and things like that, and they'll happily undock their Chronoses when there's been a person in their system that's a red for hours on end. Yeah, the more hunters that you have, the more likely you are to not be sitting in station or in a pods for 5 hours doing nothing. And I have been in Black Ops fleets when we have sat and done nothing for 2 hours and then gone home and killed nothing and been horrible because we've only had one hunter on. So you definitely want as many hunters as you can. You're then going to want every single able-bodied, warm-blooded person in your fleet in a DPS ship of some variety. Once you start getting to the range of like maybe 20 or so bombers, 15, 20 bombers, you might want to think about adding more bridging ships if you can, because you're going to then get to the point where a return trip is using a lot of fuel. As confirmed in the channel, you can put like lots and lots of bads into local and people will still just run their sites. So your fleet needs to convene in some safe, convenient location. Now this can be a station, and we do this most often because you can, within about 10 seconds, you can get the entire fleet to undock, press control space on the undock, get within range of the Black Ops ship, which is 2,500 meters, just like a gate, and then jump through. And it takes you about 20 seconds from being shouted to undock to actually getting someone through the bridge, so it's relatively quick. You can do this from a POS, which is a faster option, but it means that you guys are decloaked and everyone knows what you're doing. That may or may not be an issue for you if your staging system is somewhere relatively safe where no one's going to be spying on you. But obviously, if you've got a whole fleet of people sitting in a POS that's only one jump away from like nullsec, then chances are the people that live in nullsec are going to pay attention to that. And you can do this in a safe spot cloaked up, and this is what we tend to do if we're at a midpoint. We will just get someone to make a random safe spot somewhere, and the Black Ops ship warps to it. Because the Black Ops ship cannot warp cloaked, it's important that the Black Ops ship goes in first, and then as soon as he arrives, he cloaks up, and then everyone in fleet warps to the Black Ops ship at 0. Two cloaked ships will not decloak each other as long as they both remain cloaked for the whole duration. If anyone decloaks, however, when you're at a safe spot, the entire fleet will be decloaked. We tend not to use midpoints if there's anyone in system. We try and pick completely empty systems, and in most of nullsec, a lot of the systems are completely empty, so that's it. Not difficult to find a midpoint system that's empty. However, on the off chance that there's on the off chance that there are people in the system, if your whole fleet gets decloaked at that safe spot, you basically have to consider that safe spot to be completely burnt and compromised, and you need to make a new one. So it's a bit of a pain. And this is why, when possible, we try to do this in stations. The other thing about null, of course, is that unless you're in probably where literally every single system has a station, most of the time there's no stations around, or you can't dock in them anyway. So once your hunters are out looking for stuff, that's when you open a beer and put a movie on, because for the next kind of like 20-30 minutes, really nothing is going to happen. Unless you've got very good hunters, or you've got a lot of them, or they've already been in system, it's going to take them a little while to move to the target grounds to find out what's going on, and to actually find targets for you to shoot at. And this is why I was saying earlier that really the thing that makes these fleets way less boring is having enough people in fleet with Sino 5 with a stealth bomber or a recon or something like that. And then at some point, one of your hunters will say, hey, I've got a dummy in a combat site, I'm warping to it now. And then that's when kind of everyone's ears prick up and you put your beer down, put your headphones back on, start to look at your ship, hover over the undock button. Generally, hunters warp in at some sort of range towards a site. Usually the people that are running sites aren't sitting at 0 on the warp-in points. They'll be a little bit ways off. So at this point, it's either, he's aligning out and he's gone, and everyone just starts drinking their beers again, or it's, alright, I'm 30 off him, I'm gonna burn it in. Now, burning in while cloaked does take a little bit of time, so this is generally when we will get the fleet to undock, and everyone undocks. The bridger, who is usually the top of your your watch list. The bridger will control space and make sure that they are stopped moving, and everyone needs to select the bridging ship and then choose keep it range, something in the region of about 2,000. People who bridge don't like being bumped by stealth bombs with prop mods on, so never approach a bridger with a prop mod on, and never use the approach command. You want to keep it range. And the keep it range command means that once you get close to him, your ship will automatically slow down and not bump him out of range. So hopefully the hunter is now in some sort of range of the ship. He will decloak, he will tackle it, and he will light his Sino. As I mentioned earlier, he will not, or he or she, it's EVE Online, most people are guys, he or she will light their covert Sino, and they'll say, Sino up, Sino up, Sino up. And then the bridger needs to open his jump bridge, and later on when we actually do the bridging, I will show you guys how that works. Basically, you just right click on your capacitor, and then you jump. Oh, sorry, you don't use jump. That would be bad. You choose bridge 2, and then the target Sinusoidal Field will be put there. And then the bridge starts. The bridge opens for 30 seconds. As I said, it's a very big visual effect in space. You can't really miss it unless you've got graphics settings set on 0. But the bridger will then shout, bridge up, bridge up, bridge up. All of the DPS ships that are going through the bridge then right-click on the bridging battleship and choose bridge 2 or jump 2, I forget what it says, and then it shows the target system. You jump in. Now, when you take a portal or when you use your jump drive, if you're actually using a Black Ops ships, you do not arrive cloaked like you do through a Stargate. You arrive decloaked and fully vulnerable, and all of your modules will have been turned off. So you need to turn on all of your damage and defense mods. You need to start locking up the target, and you need to then obviously start shooting it with your guns, missiles, drones, whatever you've got. If you're a stealth bomber, it's a good idea to orbit at whatever tackle range you've got. So, burn in a little bit and then start orbiting at 5 to 8k if you've got a scram, or about kind of 15 to 20k if you've got a long point. Start shooting the target. You are not invulnerable until you do something, no. I mean, you have like the couple of seconds invulnerability that you have when you come out of warp, but that's not really true invulnerability. Things like smart bombs and NPCs can still damage you when you've got that. It's really better called unlockable. But that only lasts a few seconds anyway. But you will not arrive cloaked. You can't just hang around doing nothing. So yeah, there will be one or more targets. Ideally, if there's more than one target, your hunter will have told you this beforehand, and ideally, he will have said, right, I'm going to tackle, Al in a Redeemer. I need someone immediately to tackle in a Sin. You probably won't be blopsing on top of other Blops targets, but, So yeah, if necessary, tackle as many things as you can, shoot as many things as you can. The idea is to absolutely obliterate all of the stuff as soon as you can. Once all of the targets are destroyed or have fled, everyone will then immediately warp away to a random celestial engaging their cloaking device en route. What this means is that you go to your right-click menu, you pick a planet, ideally something like a customs office works really well. Do not pick moons, because there will be pauses at moons and they will shoot at you. Asteroid fields are nice, anything like that, and you just warp out. Everyone GTFOs. You activate your cloak en route if you are in a stealth bomber recon or anything like that. As mentioned earlier, if you are in a Black Ops ship, you immediately start double-clicking off in some random direction, then you put your MJD on. As soon as your MJD is cycled and you are 100 kilometers away, you cloak up. Now, usually, the Black Ops battleships that came in to do damage can just sit where they are cloaked. I would still move, you move quite quickly with your cloak turned on, but you can stay in the combat site until the home signer is lit. And once the home signer is lit, you can just immediately decloak and jump out. So your route home is fairly safe. Stealth bombers, and if you bought them many of the cruisers, however, what you need to do is once you get to whatever celestial you warped to, and once you've cloaked up and you've got safe there, what you need to do is either start making yourself a safe, or if you're happy where you are, again, just burn off in a random direction cloaked. And the hunter, if they survived, or some other ship in your fleet, if you're doing it that way, will then make a new random safe spot in the middle of nowhere. They will either open a new covert signer there so that your bridging ship can actually jump in to bridge you home, or if your bridging ship came in on the initial signer, which sometimes happens, they will then invite the bridging ship to warp to them at 0. They then need to move off a little bit, about 5k in some random directions, because the bridging Black Ops ship will be arriving decloaked. Once the bridging ship has gotten to this new random safe spot, he will cloak up, and he will invite all of the other bombers in fleets to warp back to him at 0. And then, give you a minute or two for everyone to warp in, X up if you're not here, say now, or we're going to leave you behind, all that kind of stuff. And then once everyone is kind of happy that they're on the bridger, because you won't really know because they'll be decloaked, the bridger will decloak, which will then decloak everyone else around them. That's when you find out that you're 100 kilometers away and you're going to get left behind. And then he will open up a bridge back to the home signer, and everyone does the reverse, and everyone bridges out. In, ship destroyed, and out again. If you're very, very good, you can do it within about 2 minutes. Probably going to be more like 4 to 5 minutes. Question, how often does it happen that you have no Sino ships left? What do you mean Sino ships? Do you mean that you send all of your damage dealers off to kill a target and then there's no Sino left with them for the bridger to come in on? If that's the case, then so far it's never happened. We have enough people that have trained on their mains as well that we tend to bring quite a few people in bombers with a Sino fitted. But the hunter dies in maybe, I don't know, maybe 10-20% of the cases. Hunters usually survive pretty well. Question, what is the bridge range? The bridge range is the same as the range of the jump drive on the ship that you're piloting. That range is modified by the skill jump drive calibration, JDC. So once you've got jump drive calibration to 5, the range on a Black Ops ship is, I think, about 8 light years. I don't actually know exactly what the range is. Again, because we use .land to work out what is and what isn't in range, I don't actually tend to look at the exact range requirement.
It's 8.75 if you're at level 5.
There you go, 7.875 light years.
I meant how many kilometers off can a bomber use the bridge, like 10 km or 15?
2.5. You need to put in 2.5k, just like a gate. This is why, I personally use keep it range 1.5, so I manually set my keep it range to 1.5 when I'm in a bomber, and then I just, as soon as the bridging ship kind of undocks, you just right click on it, choose keep it range, and then you'll keep it range. But yeah, I think the default ones in the game are 1000 and 2500. 2500 obviously being the maximum range is a bit too much for me, so if you're just going to use the default ones, then keep it range 1000 is fine. Yeah, just don't approach. It's not like catastrophic if you do. You're not going to bump a battleship far when you're in a little stealth bomber, but it's just kind of annoying to be booked around when you're in the bridging ship, because then, kind of everyone has to follow you around. Some people are into and out of range.